All right, recording again starts. I think we have 3-4 part of recording. All right. Are you back, guys? Everyone is back. Should we continue or should I wait? Great. I see lots of thumbs up. Fantastic. If you want to see visually now what you did with the model and then the model what did with the like this schema and the model, what was this user that I explained? It's a collection name. It's like a subfolder in the database. Let's take a look at it. In the MongoDB website that you just created an account, and here we came. You put you here, I can see everyone. So when you come here, it's the overview section that you see something like this. Always, if you forget your connection string, that's DB URI link that you have it in the .env, you come here in the overview section, you click on connect. It gives you, again, in this part, gives you that link that you were using. All right. This is where you can get the link that you had. But here in the left side, there is a clusters. If you click on that, you will see something like this. And this stuff that like it's like a graph or heartbeat up and down. This means already we made some calls and connections to this one because we made a request to get the users and so on. This is the connections we had. And you can see that here in this part, browse collections. And you click on that. You come here as what you created. This is a sample. It's always there. It's a default. But what we created, it's E08 review from where it's coming. If you remember in the .env, I said we can add a name as a name of a folder in database or whatever. That's coming from here. Yeah, that it creates a database actually, but you can imagine it as a folder in the database. And that folder has a subfolder inside, which we call it collections, collection of users. This subfolder, users, you can see S is added to that. It's coming from the schema and the model that we created. This is coming from this name. We said create a user collection or folder, and we said that you don't need to put S there because automatically S will be added in the MongoDB. That's here the S. So does that make sense? And this thing is empty. We don't have anything. That's why we receive an empty array and we say give us all the users. Make sense? Everything's fine? Question? All right. Okay. Let's now save some user in the database. Yeah, Nikki?
Sorry to interrupt you again. Which was the step that you did that you get the data? Because I'm not getting it.
Here you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, so at the beginning when you log in, you are in the overview section.
Overview.
Yeah. So you should see something like this. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So in the left side, you go to the clusters.
Yes.
Okay. And then you see something like this.
Yeah.
And this browse collection, this one.
Mm-hmm.
If you go there, then you should see all of the collections and database you have. Yeah.
So it has to be different for us, right?
Whatever you put a name there, because in your .env, I put it a name E08 review. I don't know what you put it there.
For me, it's just simple
That's by default. This one, you mean sample flicks?
Yeah.
This isn't by default there
Users.
actually.
I have to go to the users.
Yeah, you have to go to the users.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. What is this users here? Let me see. Oh, I have. That's a sample actually. It shouldn't be yours. Do you have this?
Yeah, I have the same, but it's not mine.
Yeah, it's just like an example by default. You should have an extra folder. Don't you have another one? Here? Let me see what you have.
At test users.
Then it's your test. Because if you don't give it anything here, check your .env. Do you have something after this?
Oh, sorry, my mic was off.
No,
No, I don't have it, so I have to.
If you don't have it, it creates by default test folder. It's name it test. Yeah. So you should have a test here actually. Where is it? So a test, and inside of the test you should have a collection of users, which is empty. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's it. Now we want to save a user there, so to say. All right. So which HTTP method you know so far? Can someone tell me? What is HTTP method? What I'm telling you.
I think get on post.
Nice. Get, post, delete, put. This delete, put, and this thing we do it in the future soon. So what is get responsible for when you use this method? What is it supposed to do?
Send a request.
It's a request that is coming to this endpoint, and the get, it's a type of get request. What should supposed to do this?
It's your data.
Retrieving resources. Resources could be any kind of data. It could be user, product, or whatever. In this case, it's about users. Retrieving means like getting. So whenever you want to get some data, whenever you want to receive some data, whenever you want to retrieve some data, then the method is a get. We make a get request to get some data. What if I use the method post? So another endpoint I'm going to create. User, router, the same thing. User router, but this time is a post. Of course with small. What is this for then? When do you use post, the post method? Have you used it before? Yeah? What is it for?
Create something new.
Exactly. For creating new resource, new data. It could be anything. It could be a new product you want to save to the database, a new animal, a new food, a new recipe, a new message, a new whatever, a new user. Whatever is related. This route is related to the users now. So when a request is coming, it's a part of registration. You know that. Someone comes to your website to register. What is happening behind the scene? They put their credentials, name, username, email, password, whatever it is. You grab this information, send a request to the backend. Let's draw this. This is so important, please. You need to know the things. That's the front end. That's your client front end or React application, whatever you want to call it, they are front end. Okay, client, front end, you hear all of this stuff. And that's your server, that's your brain, that's your daemon, that's your backend. A lot of name there is for that. Someone registers to your website. So they came here, they want to register. They put their username and password. And you want to grab these values and send it to your backend and say, hey backend, grab this information. If everything is fine, save it to the database. This is a procedure we want to do. If it's saved successfully, if database tells you, okay, I saved it, response back to your backend says, yeah, I saved it. This is the user information. I added an ID to that. This is a unique ID. Take it. And then the backend receives that and sends back a response. And usually the response is the same user with an ID inside that object of the user. This is a procedure happening behind the scene. How do you do this? I want you to think about this first part. How do you grab information from the user and send it back to a backend or to a server? Which tool you use and which method? Oh, I'm not presenting. Why no one says anything? You're not listening or what? I was drawing all of this stuff. And I have to do it again. Okay. Let's just start again. This is your front end, I was telling, or your client, or your front end, whatever. You have a registration page somewhere here. Someone comes to your website and registers. They put their credential. Let's keep it simple. Your registration is a username and a password. The user puts it there, sends back, or sends this request and all of this information to the server and tells server, can you save this to the database? Server grabs the information, if everything is fine, sends this user to the database. Database is going to do what? Check everything. Is it matching the schema? What we define. The schema username should be unique and blah, blah, blah. If yes, it's going to be saved into the collection of users and sends back the user that was saved and says, hey backend, I saved that. Even I added a unique ID because database adds a unique ID to every resource or data you save to the database. Because this ID we need it later for finding that, for deleting that, for updating that. So this ID will be automatically added by the database or MongoDB. It sends back to the backend, says, hey, I saved it here, the information. And the backend sends back this information or the new data that was saved, the new user, to the front end. That's the procedure is happening. I have this question to you. I want you to focus on the first part. How do you send username and password with the request to somewhere, like to your backend? How do you do this? How can you transfer information in the request? How do you do this? How did you do this actually so far?
So with Fetch?
With Fetch, that's the tool that we use, definitely, yes. But how you put the username and password, email, address, or whatever you have in your registration form, how you take this and you put it into the fetch, where do you put it and how do you send it?
The body.
Yes. Fantastic. What was that? Azam. We have different ways of sending information in the request. One of them is in the body of the request. This request that goes out, guys. Let me do it very more clean. I want you to imagine what is happening behind. Oops, our server is kaput now. So yes, that's a server. You have an endpoint somewhere here that is responsible for saving the data. This request that it goes out, you have different ways of sending this out. Either you can put it into the header. So this we have the request has different part. A header. Another part the request has is the body of the request. Okay. There is two parts that the request has. And there is another one, we will talk about it later. A header of the request and a body of the request. So are they familiar to you?
As I remember, we talked about it briefly when we were using this standard client app to get and post.
Okay. Let me show you something. Have you used this JSON placeholder? It's a fake server that you can practice this stuff. Posts, no. Where is the post request? I want an example to see. They had it somewhere. There's a placeholder post. All right, look at that. There is a fetch request. All right. The fetch request, we know that we want to put the server actually where we want to make a request. Which server is it? What is the endpoint? In our case, our endpoint is localhost port 777/API/users. Correct? This is the endpoint that we use. This is their endpoint. And in the header, so the second argument that comes here is like defining three things. You can see inside of the second argument defining three things. We define a method because we need to specify the fetch, that which method we are using, because by default fetch, if you don't do this, by default fetch is a get request. It's always get. But what if you want to make a fetch request which is a post request or delete or put? We need to change that. The method we say it's a post. So here the second argument is an object with different stuff. We will do this a lot, but I just want you just to see what is the header and what is the body of the request. And there is another section, body. In the request that goes between the internet and you send the request to a server, the body, you can put some little information, some information that you want. You can see title, I don't know, text or whatever. You can put username, passwords, emails or whatever inside. They should be stringified. They must be like a string. You cannot send an object in the request. It's heavy. Because when you send a request, this request, when it goes to somewhere, you want to put some information in the body. There is a body section somewhere in the request. You put email, you put username, you put password here. You cannot put it like a normal object because objects are kind of heavy and you cannot send them like that. That's why we stringify them. We convert them to like a garbage string, make it a string to send it, and then here we bring it back to normal object again. You know what I mean? So we don't need, we can't send normal object. That's why we need to make our object to as a string. That's the bunch of information that you can put whatever you want inside of the body of the request. We can send it. And you cannot send something if the method is not, for now, it's not post. You can, if the method is get, you cannot send anything in the body because get method has no body. No, has no body. I mean, not no person, like no body section. So here, you cannot send information with a method get. That's why we need method post, because post enables us to send some information that we want. And there is another section, headers here. What is this headers? This headers is, the job of the header is kind of talking to your backend server. The reason is why, like, look at, who can say, what is this content type application JSON? You've used this before. Even one time if you use the post request, if you remember. Or no? So just make a reaction. If you didn't use, just say don't use. It's just, I need to know. Yeah. All right. When you make a request, like a post request, we will do this like soon in our front end. I try to create a front end that we can use fetch also. The headers, take it as it is. Like take it as I say, as a translation. Header is a bunch of information we put inside. One of them is content type. Content type application JSON. What does that mean? This line is directly talks to your backend. This backend you have here, this line directly talks to your server. Your server is very smart and listening, because when you send a request, you put some information, username and password in the body, but you stringify that. A string is a garbage information. No one loves a string. You know what I mean? So it's not an object that you know that's an object, beautiful. It's not an array. It's a garbage string. When the request goes there, here, your server is just kind of, what the F is this? I don't know, what are you sending to me? It's a garbage string. And the server needs to know what type of data is coming. And that's why we put some information in the header. We say, hey, the content type, the type of this content, this garbage string that I'm sending in the body, it's JSON. It's a JavaScript object, so to say. But I made it to a string. You can bring it back to normal object if you want. You know what I mean? This is just talking to your server. If you don't have this, this means you cannot talk to your server and server says, I don't know what is it. I don't do anything. I just reject this request. Does that make sense, what I'm telling? So, then, if you want to send some information in the request, we put it in the body of the request. And if there is a time tomorrow, I'm going to explain why in the body, not in the header. Because we can also put it in the header. Okay, we can do that. But there is a reason, and I'm going to keep it for tomorrow, or I don't know, remind me if I remember. So put information in the body, stringify that, and in the header we say, hey server, this garbage string that I'm sending you, it's a JSON, it's an object, so please understand that and read that carefully. And server says, okay, now I know what you mean. That's what we want to do. We want to make a request of, like, put information there, send a request to this endpoint, and we say, save it to the database. So this means, if there is a request coming to this endpoint, which is localhost blah 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 777/API/users, and this time it should be a post method, because the previous one was a get method. If there is a post method is coming, it never goes to this function. It goes to find who is the post method. Oh, this is the post method, I go here. So if there is a request coming here, we want to handle that with a function, which is again the same. Res next. Always we have these three things, always. And let's handle that. We want to save into the database. So we already know that the tool that we can talk to the database is our model. So I'm going to say, I'm going to create a variable, let's say new user. That's a new user I want to say. You know what? Before doing anything, I want to console log for now. Let's console log. Let's console log something. rec.body. Do you know what is this rec.body? What does it give me, this rec.body? Based on the things that I draw and something.
Users?
No. Refers to the body of the HTTP request. Fantastic. Shinedu. I've explained it just here. When a request goes, and if it's a post request, we can put information inside of the body. And when it comes here, how to access to the body of the request is just, the name is on it, body of the request. So we grab the request. This is the first thing, is we call it here rec. It refers to the request. We can see what is inside of the request. There is a bunch of information inside of the request. One of them is the body. So I can grab the body of the request to see, is there any information coming? Is it not coming? What's the problem? Yeah, let's see. So I want to make a request to this endpoint. It should be a post request to this endpoint. Let's do that. Again, let's go back to the users HTTP. Let's create another. You can come down. You have to separate lines. For separating them, you need 3 hashtags. If you don't put this, it doesn't work. It doesn't separate them. So here I can say post, this time that's a post method, to the same endpoint, but this time it chooses the post endpoint. So the request goes not to the get one, it goes to the post method, which is the post endpoint. So the request comes, the first thing that it refers to, it's a get. It says, no, I'm a post, you are a get, we don't match. So I don't go here, it goes exactly here. Oh, the address matches, the method matches, then great. I will be coming here. Fantastic. So the next thing is defining the header, as we talked about it. When you want to make a post request, as you saw as an example in placeholder, you need always to define the method must be post, the body of the request, and the header. We need these three things. So in our code for now, because we don't have a fetch request to do the same thing, but we can do it here. The first we said the method is post, fantastic. And then the next line, exactly the next line, you can define header. The header should be content type. If you type content, it gives you that. The content type, the same thing, application JSON. This is the part of request inside of the header that talks to the server and says, in the body, I'm sending you some garbage string. This is a normal object. Yeah. So this is the header, and you put an enter and make a space, just one line space. This is the documentation to use this HTTP. And now we can put your example of the user to be sent in the body. Now it goes to the body of the request automatically. Okay, we want to put a username as a string because we said making requests and sending data should be everything in a string. So the key is a string, the value is a string. Let's say username will be Nazar. And password the password, what we said, the password should be string, yeah? 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 is enough. 1 2 3 M, for example. That's the password. Alright, this is the structure if you want to make the request with this extension. If it's a post request, you have to define the method, which is a post, and then to which URL or endpoint should be sent this request. This is the header, which we say always content type application JSON, make a space between, an object. That object must be stringified, key and value, which is username and password. So this should go the request to this endpoint. And the only thing that we do here is just a console log. And we need to see the console log here, the body of the request. This means I need to see this object coming. But let's see if it's working or not. So I'm going to make this request. So behind the scene, what is happening? As soon as I make this request, what is happening behind the scene is this drawing. The request goes. Inside of the header, we have content type application. Inside of the body, we have a user object with username and password, which they are stringified. It goes to the endpoint, to the backend, and backend receives that and see. Let me sneak peek of inside of the rec.body to see what you are sending to me. And strangely, it's undefined. Who says why? The rec.body now is undefined. Can you guess why? Just a guess or anything. Because our server cannot understand still the body of the request that is coming. Look at this here. We said, hey server, this thing that I'm sending you, it's a JSON. The type of this content is a JSON. I know I sent you the garbage string, but you can bring it back to normal object. This bring it back to normal object, server cannot do it automatically. We need to add something. We call it middleware. It's built in Express. We can say app.use. What does that mean? App.use. At the beginning, I talked to that, explained it. When you say app.use, means for every request that is coming. This is the meaning. and you say app.use for every request that is coming. I want to run this function. Inside of it, you say express.json parentheses. This is an already built-in function or method inside of the Express that, what does it do? It handles all the requests that is coming before it goes to find the route, that endpoint. It goes through this function first, because we said use. It means for every request. Every request doesn't matter, like what is it to API users, API products, it's a get, it's a delete, doesn't matter. First of all, check the body of the request. This line checks the body of the request and checks the header of the request. If the header says content type is application JSON, then this line runs and converts that garbage string in the body, converts it back to normal object, so to say. So this line is doing the job, conversion. All right. So if I save and now again make the request, then the rec.body will be readable and we can see the console log. Let's do it. Bang, bang. You would see this here, which is here. Makes sense or not? Any question? Is it working for you? Do you have error?
For me, it's still undefined.
For you, it's still undefined. If make sure that you have JSON and parentheses you called here, because it's a function. And the next thing is make sure that after application JSON, there is a space between your header and the body of the request. And make sure that you are running your server not with Node, but Node Watch or Node Mode. Guys, I'm tired. I talked a lot.
And we also get tired.
I see. We can finish that. That's enough for now. But is it working, Mickey?
No, it's not working, but I can check after when I get the code and see if there was a mistake.
Wanna share your screen? Let's solve it together.
Yeah, I can do that also.
Yeah, let's solve it together and then we're done for today. I know I gave you huge information, but these were just reviews. And sorry that it was just new to you. All right, let me see your server JS.
Server here.
So you have users, and let me see your HTTP user.http. You have two spaces. Just only one space is enough.
I tried also with one.
Yeah. Send the request. Is still undefined. Fantastic. Let's go to server JS again. Funny. Let's go to your endpoint, the user router endpoint. No. The endpoint. When I say endpoint, it means user router, and
Okay.
yeah, endpoint means this stuff. So you have a user router. The post request is coming. Yeah, who can say what's the problem? Who can guess? It's obvious, it's there, I can see it, but I want you to think about it.
What's that?
It's okay, because there is no response, it tells you that. It's all good. The problem is that when you have a function of like res, rec, next that you have, the first parameter is always the request, and the second one is the response.
Okay.
Yeah. The order matters always. The first one is the request. Now give it a try. That should work.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
It's working now.
Great. Let me see your faces. Just want to see how are you? How is it going so far? Give me some feedbacks. I need to know because I don't know how your class would be happy. Oh, hi, Mickey.
Messy, sorry.
It's all good, kein Problem. Hi, Lutfi.
Hi, Jerry.
Hi. It's good to see sometimes faces. I think it's like if it's all the cameras are off, I feel I'm talking to wall. How was it so far? It was too much or was helpful? Because I need to know the direction of what should I do for the next days.
I think the reviews are always helpful because there are many things that we learn from day to day and we forget what we learn.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of material, I would say, and it is helpful when we do the reviews.
All right. Great. Thanks for the feedback. And how was the pace? Was fast? Was it slow? Was okay?
It was okay. I'd say it was okay.
So you could follow and so on. All right, great. Yeah, hope everything is fine. Let's continue tomorrow. I'm gonna continue this as a review still, but I don't think so. For example, we do it the whole day. I would try to finish the review for till 12, and I give you exercises actually that you just grab your hand on the keyboard and yeah, please try be interactive, because doesn't matter if it's wrong or wrong. Just say what is the answer comes to your mind. It gives me direction to explain more stuff. For example, I can draw stuff, okay? Because the drawing can help you. If you don't say anything, I don't know, what should I do? Then I should just code and go away. So these things is so important. Please be very interactive. I will be happy to hear a lot of questions, a lot of, I don't know, stopping and so on since tomorrow, from tomorrow actually. Yeah, that's all. You have still 13 minutes. If you want to add anything or something, I'm happy to hear that. If not, you can leave if you want. But I will be staying here. Yeah.